Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the information session for the Master of Science in Bioethics program at Harvard Medical School. My name is Becca Brendel. I'm the director of the center and the founding director of this master's program. And I'm delighted to welcome you and to introduce you to our incredible education team that makes this groundbreaking master's program possible. With me today on the Zoom, and you'll hear from them later as well, is the Senior Associate Director of Education, Joni Bishansky, our Associate Director of Education for our center, Crystal Chang, Sam Picken, our Education Program Administrator, and not on the Zoom with us today, but always behind the scenes and working hard. And you may have even spoken to them already. Jesse Tucker, our Admissions and Recruitment Administrator, and Sade Chisholm, our Program Engagement and Alumni Development Coordinator. And together, we are all responsible for the Master of Science in Bioethics program. We also welcome you to introduce yourselves using the chat box. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from or where you're joining us from today, and any other little fact you might want us to know, either about your professional background or your interest in bioethics. And I'll say a little bit more about that as we move on. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover today. It's lunchtime on the East Coast. You can let us know what time of day it is where you're joining us from around the world. We'll talk about the program's background and some of the details about what makes it so special. The available courses of study, that's an in-person full-time program and a 2 or 3 year part-time online program. We'll talk about the Capstone experience, one of the hallmarks of our program over the past 11 years. And then we'll get into some of the logistics about where you are now and what happens between being interested in the program and potentially joining us. So we'll talk about admissions, we'll talk about housing and financial aid, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end for live questions and answers. Okay, so welcome to Harvard Medical School. You'll see in our backgrounds that we're all joining you from a different spot on the Harvard Medical School quad. But when people think about coming to Harvard Medical School, we often look at imposing buildings and big structures and a hub of biomedical research. But the most important thing we want you to leave with today is to really understand that what you're coming to is joining a vibrant community. So this is a picture of that community, people in the Center for Bioethics and Master Bioethics community. You'll see a picture on the top left from 2016, our first graduating class with just 10 students. And then you'll see our last graduating class last May, the class of 2025 in the top right corner. And we have, in addition, you'll see some of our students at our graduation. It's now gone from very informal on the top left to a very formal graduation and part of a growing community of master's programs at Harvard Medical School. And then in the bottom right is a picture of our 10th anniversary convening of our Center for Bioethics and our master's program that happened last spring on campus. So we welcome you into this community, whether you join the master's program, whether you become engaged with our center through our programming that we'll talk about, whether you seek other educational or learning or professional opportunities. And what's really we've also accomplished with this growing community is impact globally around advancing the work of bioethics. So these pictures are from a major initiative our center did in collaboration with alums of our master's program in Asia this past summer, really focused on building scholarship in global bioethics and also building clinical ethics consultation capacity in Asia, specifically in Malaysia and in Indonesia. These are just some of the pictures to remind us, and if you look at everyone, In the pictures, you'll see both graduates from many, many years ago and recent graduates talking about their experience in the program. And so you're joining not only our on-campus community, but also growing global impact. And then moving on, in all of this, um, what we focus on for each student coming to the program, whether you're just finishing college and thinking about what comes next or early on in your professional career, or if you're quite senior and figuring out what the next step is going to be, or how to engage ethics more broadly because of interest that's developed in a clinical capacity or research capacity or your academic work. What we really focus on in this program is an individually tailored experience for each student that both comes with classroom learning and it's rigorous. We'll talk about that. We have a lot of big core curriculum, but also really looking at how we take and the journey with each student from point A when they enter the program to point B when they finish the program and on to their future careers. And these are all pictures of students who came to us at different points in their careers and seeing them come through their journey, many of them coming before law school and then going to or medical school or academic work, and then moving on and making big strides for themselves and in bioethics and medicine, law, academia, public policy, and beyond. So how does all of that happen? Well, part of that happens because studying bioethics allows us to really engage critical developments in life sciences, in population health, and in technology. And what we focus on is building the knowledge, skills, attitudes, and networks to address the current questions and future challenges that are emerging in bioethics. And we believe that this work requires both a rigorous theoretical foundation achieved through classroom learning, but also practical skills and experience, which are learned through and supported through the Capstone experience. Next slide. And why do this at Harvard Medical School? Well, by coming to Harvard Medical School, you're joining the largest biomedical research community in the world. At the of Bioethics program, we have all the resources of Harvard teaching faculty and facilities. Many classes offered within our center, so students can come through the program and only take courses offered in the bioethics curriculum, but also have access to cross-registration throughout the university, both the medical school and the other campuses in Cambridge and in Boston. And this opportunity for learning extends beyond the classroom to extracurricular events, lectures, seminars, and special convenings on campus. And increasingly, as our master's programs have grown at Harvard Medical School, we have dedicated student resources for the students in our program, as well as the resources of the entire university. Next slide. And at the Center for Bioethics, we, over the past decade, have developed and honed a tailored student-focused program. So as you see, our students are at the center of everything that we do. And when you come to join this program, you're joining wonderful faculty. We have more than 50 faculty who are affiliated with and teach in our program. But even more than that, the peers that come to your peers in classes and in the program are current and future leaders in biomedicine, in law, in health policy, in ethics, and beyond. And our faculty come from a wide range of expertise, areas of expertise, including clinical ethics, research ethics and oversight, public policy and law, neuroethics, reproductive ethics, genomics, emerging technologies, AI, religion, global health, and more. And so we bring to you an incredibly diverse faculty to support you on your journey. And our students are equally diverse. We currently have 128 students split between full-time enrollment on campus in Boston and part-time students who join us from all around the world virtually over 1, 2, or 3 years of study. We now have students and alumni from more than 34 countries, and they come from a variety of educational and professional backgrounds. Next slide. Okay, so here are the options for our courses of study. This is our in-person program. It's full-time, 1 year on campus, and it consists of classes during the days, afternoons, and evenings, and all classes happened in person. And as you'll see, this class tends to be younger students who can relocate for a full year, have the opportunity to study full time. And these students are generally recent graduates of undergraduate institutions or in 1 to 3 years following graduation from college. So this includes a number of students who join us from abroad on leave from medical school. It includes other uh, graduate and professional students from the US, Canada, and around the world as well. And then just a couple of early career and mid-career students who join us in person, understanding that this is the best option for them, but also that it's really a class of early career learners. On the other hand, our online program occurs over 2 or 3 years virtually. And you'll see that the class breakdown trends heavily towards our mid-career learners. And so this is really the group that appeals to those who are already in practice, who are thinking about well established in a career, where do we go and how does bioethics help in terms of next career steps, developing academic engagement in ethics, building community, and broadening one's impact. And you'll see that there are a few younger students who have joined this class, but it's the exception rather than the rule. So something to know about the online program, there's often a lot of questions about how that learning happens. That learning all happens live and synchronously. So we come together in the class as if we're in a classroom, except it's two-dimensional and we have to imagine how tall each other are. That's usually the biggest shock when we meet in person. The classes generally meet in the afternoon to evening, um, and that's based on U.S. East Coast time. So it will be still late afternoon on the West Coast, and in at varying times around the globe. And I will say that we were slow adopters of online learning for many years in our program. People, mid-career professionals said, can't you just make the program online so we can join and not have to quit our jobs for a year and move and disrupt our families? And we were always a little bit resistant because we didn't know exactly how we could create the kind of learning community online that we had created in our in-person classrooms. And then necessity became the mother of invention with the global pandemic. And we did a lot of work to hone our online education to the point now that it's almost hard to remember whether students were with us in person or online because the community that we built is so strong. And year in and year out, year after year over the past 5 years, our virtual students have continued to tell us that one of the most valuable parts of the coming to the master's program, in addition to the learning, is really building a network and building relationships, building community, both with faculty and with peers. All right. So what is this curriculum I've been alluding to? That it's kind of a lot. We take the academic work really, really seriously. And it involves 9 months of study full-time, 2 or 3 years of study part-time. And we have a set core curriculum. So every student takes the 10 credit course sequence, a full year, Foundations of Bioethics 1 and 2, in the first 2 semesters of their study. In addition, we have core classes in research ethics, clinical ethics, and health law and policy, and the required capstone experience that happens in the student's final year in the program. So that's either in the second or third year if you're a part-time student, or it all happens together if you're a full-time in-person student on campus. And then at the Center for Bioethics, we also offer electives in those many fields across and areas of interest across bioethics. Some of them we talked about. We talked about our faculty expertise. But also students are able to take electives across the university. And this is one of our students from the first group. Jasmine Panton, she came to us right after graduating college. Uh, she's now um, uh, she's now finished medical school up at Dartmouth and is pursuing her clinical training. And really, over the course of time, what you can see from her quote here is how much the experience of being in the master's program really shaped the way she engages in questions of bioethics uh, in her studies and now in her practice. Okay, so the capstone experience we really consider the crown jewel of the Master of Bioethics program. It is something that we began from the very beginning, understanding that bioethics is an applied field. So we could learn lots in the classroom, but then never have an understanding of what that looks like in practice or in application. And so for each student, we align a capstone placement that ties to their expertise and experience as well as interests. And each student who comes through the program is paired with a mentor who's actively working in that area. And through this experience, our students gain hands-on knowledge and know-how about and skills that will continue to apply into the next step of one's education or career. Next slide. Okay, and then also what we have with the capstone experience is our students also attend a seminar in which they meet with a faculty member of the center and a set small group of students each week to review their progress, to review their requirements, and to learn from each other's experience about what some of the strengths and opportunities are, and then how to avoid some pitfalls or quagmires along the way in taking on groundbreaking and new work. So we really encourage you, and we'll put it in the chat for you, so you'll have the link to look at our capstone books from the past from this year, but also from prior years, to get a sense of the breadth and depth of the work that our students are doing in their capstone projects. And you'll also get a sense in those capstone books of who our different students are because their bios are there as well. And we've shared with you here two comments from capstone students, both who came to us early in their journeys. Anna Deschentrader is now in medical school in Germany. And if you follow LinkedIn and you've been around our community, you'll see she just posted that she presented her capstone work at her first professional meeting in genetics. And really just the amazing thing was both about how impactful the work has been, but also the amount of support that came to her from her medical school community as well as her Center for Bioethics community. So very exciting for Anna, very proud of her. And David Zuckerman was in the class of 21. He stands out to me because we share a birthday, even though I come from a family of Islanders fans, and he is unfortunately a New York Rangers fan. That being said, David came to us before going to medical school at New York Medical College and really felt, as you can see, that the capstone experience working in the area of traumatic brain injury really set the stage for him in his future work as a physician. All right. And then I also alluded to many of the resources at Harvard Medical School, and I just want to call out some of them because where we started, we talked about things like how you get from point A in your career to point B. And that happens with your faculty and your individual faculty advisor, but also through a career and professional development navigator that is operated centrally through Harvard Medical School, academic and professional skills development, resources and support, also focusing on writing and communication. We have an office to support students with disabilities to make sure that all students can learn and receive accommodations. Harvard also offers work, life, and family resources, a Center for Wellness and Health Promotion, and then events that are advertised through the Harvard Gazette for the entire Harvard community across the schools and campuses. We also have centrally at the medical school through the master's program, a master's student council and student government and activities geared towards just our master's students. And this advising and networking occurs, as I mentioned, with faculty advisors, capstone mentors, and in addition, social and professional events within our center and within the other master's programs. All right, and the next slide. So I hope that this has been a quick overview of the highlights of our program. We encourage you to stay connected with us. One of the things we want, whether or not you come to this master's program, you're entering a community of people doing work in bioethics, and we hope that you'll include the center in that work and in that interest. So please do use this QR code. Subscribe to our biweekly newsletter. That will give you information about upcoming events, many, if not most of them virtual, so you can attend them from anywhere in the world. And to start learning more about us and start learning more about bioethics and the work that we find challenging and interesting. So I'm going to stop there. You'll see if you come to our classes that we know adult learners have about a 12 to 20-minute attention span before we have to switch set. So we're at 23 minutes, a little bit over, but we're all really excited today. So I don't see too many people sleeping on the Zoom screen. But I'm now going to hand it over to our Senior Associate Director of Education, Joni Bishansky, who's going to start answering all of the questions that are coming in the chat about what do I do now if I think I want to come to the program. So Joni, I'll pass it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Becca. And I want to welcome everyone here. And some of you are very familiar to me as I think I've had conversations with you or met you already in person. So I'm going to get into some of the key things that you're all wondering about, which is the admissions process. What do we require? I will tell you about our online application, and we do ask that you'll submit transcripts from all institutions. So no matter where you went to school, when you went to school, it is really important that you do get a hold of those and send them to us. We ask for your CV or resume. There is a statement of purpose, and I will detail that a little bit in one of the next slides, what we ask of you. And 3 letters of recommendation are an important part of this. There is an $100 application fee that we have, and there are optional test scores. So if you've taken the GREs or MCATs or LSATs, you certainly can include them, but they're not required. If you are an international applicant, we do ask that you submit any TOEFL or other testing that you've done to demonstrate your proficiency in the English language. That is something that we do look at and do ask you to submit. Our applications are open now, and if you look at the right-hand side, the date of the in-person application is due on January 14th. And then if you're planning to apply to our online virtual program, those applications are due by March 4th. So we look forward to having you submit those applications. If you go to the next slide, please. Some tips about the application. I alluded to the statement of purpose. We set it up so that we ask you to answer some very specific questions. One is about your motivation for bioethics, what impact or contribution you hope to make, what is your academic and professional background. So some of you are coming right out of college, so therefore you're going to talk more about your academic background, where if you're applying to the virtual program, you've been working out there and we want to know what have you been doing. So you're going to allude to that. And just your general goals, aspirations, and again, your personal commitment. We only allow a short amount of space for you to do this in 750 words, but that's the whole idea, for you to really get down to the basics and answer the questions. I always like to say, if you answer and do exactly what we ask you to do, then that really makes sure that you're getting to that endpoint there. The other thing is that we encourage you to start conversations early with your recommenders, because they're all busy, and we know that sometimes that's the last thing that comes in, our recommendations. And we're saying that 2 of the 3 should be from supervisors, but if you're just graduating, it might be from your academic advisors or from a specific instructor that you've had in school. And we ask that all of the letters that get submitted are on official letterhead and contained key information about the individual, and that they're actually signed. There is an opportunity for an updated CV. Make sure you take a look at it. And certainly clear copies of your transcripts will facilitate the process so that we're not going back and forth to you when we ask for these particular documents. We do also state, and you'll attest to this, that you don't use AI in any part of generating your application. And so I'm just going to tell you that right up front so that you shy away from that as you start your process. Next slide, please. Many of you live in Boston, and that's great because you don't have to think about housing options. But for those of you who would be coming to the in-person program, you might be thinking about living on campus. And our campus is located in the medical school area, which is downtown, really in the Longwood area is what we call it, not in Cambridge, but there is housing there at Vanderbilt Hall, and that's a place that opens up, and you put in your name and you can actually find that. But there are additional options available in the general area, which we call Fenway, around Fenway Park, you might wonder, that is where it comes from, or in Cambridge, and then it's a quick commute across the river. There's also shuttle buses that exist. And then general off-campus parking, there's lots of postings for roommate groups that come up, or university apartments. And those are things that we'll provide you with along the way, and that once you do apply, you'll start getting information about the housing options that do exist. But there are housing options, and I like to point that out. There is a cost for attending the program full-time. It's basically about $63,000, could be more than that. And part-time program, it is the equivalent in 2 years. It's about $31,000 per year. And again, the part-time about $21,000 per year, obviously always adding up to the total, does not include the other costs that are required, which are living expenses. We estimate that to be about $29,000 for the full-time program if you're living here during the year. There is health insurance that's affiliated with Harvard Medical School. However, you don't need that. You simply check a box that allows you to waive out of that, and you don't need to opt into it. But it is here because we know so many people do need health insurance when they do attend school. So there's a lot of details about that. We know that people often ask us about financial aid, and I've separated this out by focusing more on the domestic students to start. There are federal loans that you can look at, direct or direct plus, federal work study programs. There is a Dean Scholarship, although there are limited in number. I just want to point that out. Certainly external scholarships, there's a guide to that. I highly recommend that you look those scholarships up. You'd be surprised sometimes what you find, even in your local town, or maybe you're working, I should say, at one of the affiliated hospitals in the area, and we do offer a discount for that because they're affiliated with Harvard Medical School. And then don't forget to check out your reimbursement programs. Employers, we know that, there's been some dial back in those, but we know also they've been upped in many instances. So we encourage you to just take a look at that, because you'd be surprised those reimbursements can work out. And if you're in the 2-year or 3-year program, sometimes you can actually spread that across and get tuition reimbursement over those 2 or 3 years. So that offsets the cost and really gives you an advantage if you are doing the program virtually. Next slide, to go over a little bit of the international students' financial aid options, very different. Private loans, sometimes from the countries you're coming from. External international scholarships, there is a guide for that. And again, we encourage you to look at that. We know some governments actually support students coming to the program, so that's available. You are entitled to applying for the Dean Scholarship as well, so you're included in that. Sometimes there's work available on campus. look into that. And again, I'm sure many of you from your employers as well, especially if you're doing the part-time programs, that your employers do offer tuition reimbursement. So go to the next slide. So what's next? We really encourage you to start your application now. And if you start your application now and upload just your CV or resume and send us an email, we're willing to take a look at that to just see how things align with the program. So a little preview of what your application might look like, but we'd like to take a look at your resume and get back to you on it and say, gee, this looks pretty good, and we strongly encourage you to continue your application. But it's a way to just get a preview of what is your application going to look like. As was already mentioned, sign up, subscribe to our newsletter on our website, our homepage. We offer so many different events that are virtual that you can join. And we have lots of programs that are up and coming through the fall. New ones will start after the first of the year. And connect, with our center. Go on to LinkedIn, connect with us, connect with the individuals that are on this call, connect with me, connect with Dr. Brendel, connect with Crystal. We really post a lot up there as well, so don't hesitate. And here is our contact email address. If you email us, we promise we'll get back to you really quickly. Our turnaround time, we put this pressure on ourselves to get back to you really fast, no matter what your question is. And on the right-hand side here of the slide are some key dates. So we are having some additional info sessions, as you can see. One is going to be on November 12th. Then we have a student panel on December 3rd. We're going to have a panel of individuals who are working in the biotech pharma industry. January 7th, we have an open Q&A session. So if you're just trying to get your application completed, you have any last minute questions, or you want to hear from us, it is just a opportunity for you to ask us questions as you sort of get your application over the finish line. And then in January, again, we're focused on the now virtual program, and we're going to have a healthcare professional panel. And then we also have another Q&A open session so that we can answer any last minute questions that you might have. And it's not just at these Q&A sessions, but we're willing to answer your questions at any time. We really are. We'll jump on a call with you. So don't hesitate again to contact us directly. It's really, really